Welcome to Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show will have a talk about Linux projects such as a Linux distribution, a desktop environment, or an application. We also chat about the news or any variety of topics from the community. Anything that is Linux, tech, and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, a Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project. Even if they're having name issues again, still like them. Still a good community, but you know, they don't talk. They don't listen to me. Anyway, so with me today, I got a wonderful bunch of people. I've got Eric, Seeker, and Ben. Now, Seeker and Ben are part of the Storm OS project and kind of the whole application appetizer reason for making this all happen. So,
Thanks.
anyway, how is everybody tonight?
Good, and you?
Good.
Yeah, I just got stung by a wasp, and I'm kind of ticked
Oh,
right
no.
now. I'm just really irritated.
Oh God.
So as I'm walking into the house, I set my laptop down here because I was working doing a little work while at my nephew's birthday party, and all of a sudden it feels like I get hit right in the foot with a 2x4, and that wasn't a 2x4, that was a wasp, and so like I'm like doing the jump around like a crazy person. You know what I'm talking about, right? You know, jump around like the crazy person jump because you just got stung by something in your shoe. Anyway,
God.
So I killed it. I found it. I hunted down a while, and I got it. So it's very dead now, and I'm very happy about that.
Oh
so,
Lord, me.
Anyway, so if you have not yet, be sure to do the straw poll. About screen recording apps, specifically how you compare this screen recorder. What was it called? One you made?
The Storm OS screen recorder, my screen recording tool. That's all.
The Stormy screen recording tool. Yeah, there wasn't really a name for it. The Stormy.
Yeah, that's
tool.
Storm OS screen recorder, something like
Stormy screen recorder. I don't know.
Just call it the Eye of the Storm.
The Eye of the. Oh,
that
I like
actually
that.
sounds like a killer name.
I can change that in an instant.
Oh, good. See,
yeah, but we've already uploaded it, Red. Let's not mess with it.
I'm not gonna do it. Relax.
It's all right.
So, anyway,
I mean, we've gone through I don't know how many updates this week alone. It's just insane.
That's awesome. So it's getting better and better, and we put the pressure.
This is an ongoing screen recorder project. Who knows when stuff's gonna, Oh, and I want to make a quick announcement for you, Nate.
Yes.
There's going to be a Gen 2 version coming up.
A Gen 2 version of the screen recorder.
Yeah,
and the ISO.
Nice. Have you considered like an app image or Flatpak? Anyway, we'll talk about that later. So
we'll get to that when we get to the main topic.
Yeah, let's put a little plug in there, and then we'll come back to that. But do that straw poll if you have not, or just do the straw poll and say Text Penguin. Your vote counts. We'll at least vote often like they do in Chicago. Can always do that too. So anyway, so on the docket for today, we're going to talk about your screen recording app, other screen recording apps, and how they compare. Like maybe how we use them, screen recording apps here, and it's probably more of a content creator type thing than it is just like a general user. But even general users may have a need for such a thing. So we're going to talk about that. Do our little housekeeping, last call, but first. What I've been doing in Linux and tech, and before the show, I think no one really hopped in there saying they had something they want to talk about. So I'm going to share something with you. So I have this website called cubiclenate.com, and it's just something that I've had for a long time. It's where I put my notes, where I kind of just stuff things that that I need to remember to do later. And so I recently built a server. I think I talked about the server a little bit. So I got it completely I commissioned the server last week, so being fully as the general hardware configuration I'm going to use going forward. It's going to get a couple other upgrades. So basically, like the drive configuration, the main installation, everything else, and I've been transferring data over to it. So I was having a chat with my assistant on my computer. It's a local, I like this. This AI thing can be handy. And I just mentioned that it'd be nice if I could use it as like as remote storage, but keep it locally. So it recommended using a combination of FS cache with NFS. So FS cache is a file system cache. NFS is the network file system, what it's called. For it's like a Linux. Is that a Linux or the Unix thing? Eric, do you know what is NFS like more exclusive to that?
Um, that's a good question. I think it is Unix, just sort of general sort of Unix,
Born. At least it's born out of it, right?
yeah, because I think it's a BSD. It's a, it is just a network. It was the what was in use as the alternative to something like Samba,
Yeah.
or SMB,
So
Microsoft type sharing.
I've been using it since I was using Unix back in the early 2000s. So I wasn't sure if it was a Unix like it started there. Or, anyway, doesn't really matter. Either way, NFS is kind of cool, but at the same time, I thought it was very irritating. I really hadn't used it in a long time because you have to make sure, at least, and this may not be true now, and I did do my research to figure out if that's still the case, but to make sure I didn't have any conflicts, I had to make sure the user ID is the same for all the users that are using it. So it's very user ID dependent, I believe. Eric, correct me if I'm wrong there. You may know. So anyway, so I've been using it. Like I will put my same user ID in all the machines, and it's a unique number that I will remember. So anyway, what I've done is because I make a lot of, well, actually not as much lately, but I do the podcast thing, and I do video stuff. I have videos that are all mostly half finished, and I just got to get off my butt and do them. But I collect all these files, all these raw data files of footage or of editing of audio or whatever else. And it's not advantageous to keep them locally on the laptop because I've got a limited amount of storage here, so I want to put them out on the server. But one of my issues I was having is when I would do that, I'd want to pull something back up, like I needed a specific video clip, and I actually want to load an old video, and because those are pulling where the file locations are, if I open it up from its current location, it's looking for a file path that no longer is valid, so I have to redirect the file path, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. So what I'm doing now is, and I just got this really going today, yesterday. I made some fine tuning here today, but what I've done is I'm using the my server as an archive, but I'm mounting it using NFS with FS cache, and so what happens is I can link things over from out of my SQLite directory essentially. So what I can do then is when I back stuff up, I archive it. I don't need it on my local. I put on that, but then I create a symlink back over to it. So then it automatically goes into it. But what's neat about it is with the file system caching is once it loads it in, it keeps it resident either in RAM or on disk locally. And so so after I've loaded it once, it's like as though it stays resident, and so I can just keep using it, and it's as though I have native performance, which is really quite nice. So I can be.
And if you're on a LAN, I mean, unless it's a absolutely gigantic file,
which I don't.
It's usually, it's usually not bad anyway. Sorry to interrupt you, but yeah,
no,
it is.
It's good. So it's very cool that I can use it with a file system cache. But anyway, it was just a bunch of steps to get it to work right, and so I documented how I did it. I did also reference what I used to get it going, as far as it was kind of like my 80% solution. So basically my article is nothing more than the last 20% for me, specifically for the OpenSUSE side of it, and also tuning it for my specific purpose, I guess. And so I've got that all there, and I think it's really quite handy. I really like having it. So it's kind of nice because now when I'm playing the part of digital nomad, I can still do things as though I'm home, even though I'm not. And using NFS with file system caching and tailscale, I have a lot of more flexibility in my location. So it's pretty cool. Got everything there from the the F stab. Actually, I usually call it FS tab, but I think it was in Biddle somebody called it F stab, and I like that better. So on the F stab, let's see, ATC F stab, which it's not, etc. Yeah, file stab file. I don't know. So everything that I've used to make it work, and it's pretty cool. I'm really excited. I think the way Linux handles network drives, is really pretty slick. So some other little features there is it'll retry and so it'll retry a few times and time out, but like it'll retry on its own, so I don't even have to check to see if it's actually working. It takes care of itself.
The incredible thing about Linux has always been to me that everything's just a file, and anything you can do to a file, you can essentially do to that whatever it is. So it's a piece of hardware, if it's a share, if it's whatever it is, and it's amazing to the flexibility of things like fstab or fstab. You can put anything in there really. If you just have to format it properly so that the machine understands it. I mean, sometimes it requires a certain package or some sort of underlying requirement, but ultimately, it's a simple configuration file that's fairly straightforward and easy to read, and there's very little like mystery to. I mean, some of the flags and things could be a little sort of esoteric, but ultimately a lot of that stuff is really well documented. And yeah, it's the ultimate flexibility of just putting whatever kind of drive you want in your system and whatever kind of configuration, and whether it's network. And I do the same thing for, my NAS has all of the movie files and media files that I serve on Plex and different things. And, I just map, it's not mapping like it is in Windows. I still use that terminology all these years later, unfortunately. But yeah, and just basically set it up in FSTab, and it just works. And it just, you reboot, it works. There's no, I feel like there's a lot of times in Windows where I've got something mapped, and for some reason it just doesn't. It's like it doesn't have a good fault tolerance to it. If it doesn't connect immediately, then it doesn't seem to want to ever connect. I don't know. I just feel like there's a great amount of power and flexibility there.
Yeah, one of the things which is really cool that I learned about through this process is there are a lot of like kind of what those different little flags mean, and so it was kind of fun to like learn and understand and be able to like kind of just document it for me. But essentially, the file system cache is just called up as an option, FSC, if once you got it running, and then just telling it to automatically mount. And then I chose asynchronous so that it wouldn't cause hangups. Essentially, I want it to be more performant, I guess. So, and with the way I'm using it, asynchronous file transfers were preferred because it's going through the caching anyway, so it doesn't really matter ultimately. And then one of the other things, like so there's a couple other things too, like the BG will mount the file system in the background, so if it's not available initially, it allows the other processes to continue running until the mount and retries the mount process. And then also, if there are errors, you can actually say it forces the mount process to continue even if there are errors, which might not be the best decision, but in this case, it's not a big deal. And then also you can say how many times you want to retry, and so forth. So it's actually just kind of neat how you can adjust all those different parameters, because if you have a different situation, you want to maybe try a few more times, or you want it to keep, force it to keep going or whatever, then you can do all those things, and it's kind of up to you. And I just think that's really cool. It's fun being a Linux user. See a lot of activity in the chat. So Steve's very own, he says hello. I don't know if this is directed only to me, but good evening to you too, Steve. You're more than welcome to join. I love seeing your non-punchable face, or least punchable face in all the internet. The guy that looks like he could use a warm hug. Yeah. The Match 7 Radio says, Match 7 Radio Intercept says, NFS seems like a nice way to keep remote notes. Yeah, I guess you could do that too. So I'm using a combination of, I actually don't have it completely set up yet, so I have a Synology NAS, and then I have my server. So the idea is I want to have everything that's not being synchronized with SyncThing, I want backed up with the Synology NAS. That's essentially what I want to do. So I can just do file transfers back and forth. So I'm using, I think right now my plan is to try to use SyncThing for that. So I guess we'll see how it goes. But anyway, so I can have two.
Yeah, you've definitely been a big. Sorry, go ahead.
There's just two backups, so like two stores for that, and then I got to figure out like an offline I kind of want to see if there's any like a good tape solution, just so I can have tape backups. I just want to tape backup. Is that silly?
It's not silly. It's a thing. I mean, there's I can hear that sound of it spooling up in my head because I that was part of my duties early on when I first started in IT was to cycle the tapes and had a box of like, which ones were to go in and had it like documented, and then I'd have to do a test restore to verify that the backups were good. And that was like one day of my week basically was doing that because it was pretty glacially slow. And of course, at the time, this was 25 years ago, discs were way slower than they are today, like hard disks, hard drives
Hmm.
and stuff. Even though they were SCSI, it was still, pretty slow. And so, yeah, it's still, the state of the art for long-term, off-prem data storage, to be able to put it on a tape and go put it in a vault somewhere.
So
So
I failed to write it down because I'm good like that. We were talking about something called like was it Glacier or something like that for like cold storage
it's an
backups.
Amazon, yeah, Glacier. Yeah.
It's called Glacier, or was there something else? I thought it was a
No, I mean
non-Amazon.
that's the Amazon one. It's called Glacier. Yeah.
Codeberg,
Say that again.
like Codeberg. It's like GitLab.
Oh no, it's about like for like data backup. It was like a cold
Oh,
like
okay.
a where basically it's almost nothing. It's like an insurance policy, almost nothing to put out to back up, but it would just cost pulling it back down or something like that. One of
Yeah, and
those.
that's the problem is that it doesn't cost a lot to transfer it up. It costs considerably more to transfer it down. So if you were, I just read somewhere recently that someone had moved away from using that as a backup solution because it looks attractive to be able to have the data there and stored so cheaply. But to do basic things like I just mentioned, recovering a backup to verify it and things like that end up costing a serious chunk of money depending on how large the data set is. And you, in some cases, are better off just using something that that is less punitive on those charges. So
Yeah, I was thinking more like a. I know unless you test a backup, it doesn't actually exist. So I guess that's one thing for sure to keep in mind. But what I was thinking is more or less like an insurance policy, just something I know it's you're kicking it out there, and it would take like snapshots, periodic snapshots, whatever. But I guess how would you, without pulling it down to test it, how would you test it? Maybe if you did like you picked a couple files or whatever. I don't really know the best way to
yeah,
go
I
about
mean,
that.
you kind of have to. I mean, I use Backblaze. Um, it's just they have a bucket concept where basically it's just a chunk of storage, and then you get an allotment of how much transfer you can do both in and out. And so you pay for the size of the bucket, and then you pay for what you're putting in and out. And there's basically all of the puts to their system are included. It's you pay to pull from their system. So that's kind of they make money for the storage amount that you use, and then they also make it from you pulling down. So if I have to, restore something, like my use case for that is I have a NAS where I've already got in-house here where I've already got a lot of the stuff and I'm sort of backing it up from my systems to the NAS here, but then I take the NAS and just bulk everything that's on those disks go up to Backblaze. And
Backblaze is the one. That's one I was thinking of.
okay.
Yep.
And I've been using them for like 10 years, 8, 10 years, I would say. So, and it's reasonable. I think I pay close to $20 a month, but that's also for like many, many terabytes of data. So it's a legitimate expense for me. It's worth having all of my precious files co-located It's easy because my NAS actually has a utility that runs and it pushes those files out as soon as they're updated. It gets them out to Backblaze. And then I have a client running on my wife's computer, her business computer, so that all of her local file system is mirrored to Backblaze and it has file versioning. And the beauty
Okay.
of that is on occasion, she will do something like save over a file and then realize, oh no, I've just saved over the changes or, done something really goofy and I shouldn't have done that. And so she'll then come to me and say, can you please recover this for me? And so I'll just go in and they had their web panel is pretty straightforward. You just kind of browse to the folder structure, find the
Right.
file you want, say restore, and it actually pushes it to her system to the client and puts it in a special location. She opens it and verifies it, and then she's got her file back. So, and it does that. It's backing up like every hour or even less, I think, maybe in some cases.
Oh,
So, yeah, it's pretty robust. It's good stuff. Well worth what I pay for it.
that's pretty cool. So, how? So probably for like a file, it's probably not a big deal. So for me, it wouldn't be so much file recovery. It'd be more like complete disaster. A tornado wiped out my entire compound, kind of
Yeah.
Oh.
disaster. This just be like my third level of storage. Is what I'm thinking. But got some interesting things in the chat here. Oh, see Adam Grubbs. He's going to appear here in just a moment. But the small box admin says I use 2 Synology NAS with failover. Is it NASes with failover? So I'm interested in knowing like how people do failover. So for me, I'm just going to have a primary server and then it's just going to back up to that. So if that goes, then I can just manually switch things over or whatever. But I don't have like um, I don't know about the failover thing. I'm not really good about those automatic failover things. So what about you, Adam? Do you have a very robust backup strategy? You can probably tell me Google iCloud or something like that, right? Is that what's called, Google iCloud?
No, I don't.
Google OneDrive?
No, it's Google Drive. Yeah.
All of my personal data that's important exists in the place they needs to be and not in my own hands.
Okay. I think
So
too many things are
financial
important to me.
financial information is in the financial institutions. Photos are, I guess, backed up to whatever photo service that the platform dictates. I don't know. I don't really like have a like some complex backup system or anything like that. I just, if I feel like it's something I absolutely can't use, I'll just burn it on a Blu-ray and put it in a safe deposit box.
How good is a Blu-ray good for?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, how many years? Because you know floppies are only good for like 5, maybe 10 years, but they're good for like 20.
Most of the like consumer Blu-rays are about 50 years, 50.
Okay.
But you can get like archival level ones that are much longer.
Interesting. And we have someone new here to Linux Saloon, Nate G. I like the name. So welcome.
Oh, thanks. Glad to be here.
Fantastic. Are you? Well, I guess tell us a little bit about yourself. Can I put you on the spot? If not, you can just say no. I'd rather not.
Honestly, I've been lurking for a long time now, a few
Oh,
years. I think I discovered this right as um, Biddle was going away, and kind
okay.
of the transition from that to Linux Saloon. So, yeah.
So you've primarily known Cubicle Nate, not Rocco. Then I guess is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I think
Okay.
I saw Rocco do a couple, and then yeah. So.
Okay. Well, welcome. Glad you decided to join us.
Well,
It makes for a better time when you have more people. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
It's
So
always a weird
Backblaze.
exchange though when somebody knows you better than you know them, right?
hmm.
Yeah, that's okay though. I kind of laugh about it. I've had enough head trauma over my life that kind of goes along with a lot of things in life. I find so.
Fair enough.
Well, fantastic. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the straw poll here. So just a few more moments here. If you have not yet done the straw poll about your screen recording software, how it compares this Eye of the Storm or Storm Eye. What would you say it was, Eric?
I'll just call it Eye of the Storm.
Eye of the Storm. I like it. And then you put like OS in parentheses or something. So, yeah, if you haven't done the straw poll, go ahead and knock that out real quick, and Eris can stall and do the little, and he can filibuster here for a little bit before he starts.
Okay, so
talking about
I'll start with the
results.
replies.
Okay.
First reply, I use both OBS and I use OBS on both Linux and Windows, so they're both awesome. And then smiley face, sweating. It is good, but I've seen it's been years since I've used anything other than OBS Studio, said somebody else.
Okay.
And then the third reply is I've never used screen recorder software as I've never had a need. All I've ever done are screenshots.
That's fair.
And somebody said during the live stream, I don't use screen recording software. So those were the
Gotcha.
replies. As
So-
far as the poll,
Yeah. Fire away.
one last time I'll reload. And the number one answer is for the question is how does screen recorder software in Linux compare to the bigger desktop platforms in your opinion? And the number one answer is it is good with 27%, followed by 21% Tux Penguin. Then 16% it is amazing. 11% it is okay. 11% needs improvement. 11% other, and 6% was indifferent.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I mean, I would say it's mostly positive. I think between indifferent
Yeah.
and needs improvement. But we knew going into this there'd be some, needs improvement. But that was, I think we all kind of knew that was going to happen, well ahead of time. But so Eye of the Storm. Before we get into people's experience of it, Seeker, Ben, I don't know if you want to talk about like your reason for creating the app. Like, why was that itch there to scratch?
I'll let Red take care of this part.
I actually was thinking about it, not just for myself. I was originally for two primary reasons. Journaling, it's actually healthy for our mental state is to actually journal things. And I was already coming off of I was still in the mourning process because both my parents had passed away in 2023. So my therapist, psychiatrist, whatever, told me you should journal, just to write down your notes and stuff. And I said, well, let me do a video journal because I have all the equipment, and let me do that. So I started to slowly create it, and I started creating like these video blogs, video journals. And then I started thinking, I left it alone for a little while. Then I was thinking about Fish, Fishman Loves Linux, and we were thinking about when he comes back, it'd be great if he actually had an alternative because he was having some difficulty with OBS, and he didn't like simple screen recorder. So I said, why not try to create a hybrid of both? Some of the better features of both. So I started working on that. I already had my own screen recording, my journaling program. I started turning that into what it is now, So I did it for two folds.
Yeah, it's cool. I think it's a good idea. I mean, because I can see where the issue would be. OBS probably just has too many buttons and levers, and simple screen recorder maybe doesn't have quite enough. And so I guess what was it in your perspective? What was it about a simple screen recorder that, like, a feature that it didn't have that you really said I got to have this, and so you sort of, I don't want to say stole, but like
inspired
inspired by OBS that you incorporated?
Well,
Hmm.
I was
It's a
inspired
story
by
about a woman
their
who
screen
walked into a
preview, which
bridal
is
shop one
built in.
day and told the
Yeah,
sales
it's actually
clerk
built into
that
it
she was
as
looking for a
a
wedding
preview
gown
tab.
for her fourth wedding.
And I was inspired by some of the people that can actually put their text information, not like a notation, like an annotation. And then I added also I was inspired by OBS because they can add also graphics, certain graphics. So I came up with the idea of just being able to add a logo
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's particularly interesting because he was able to take one of our StormOS logos and incorporate it into the recording of certain videos and that kind of thing.
yeah,
Okay.
resizable and everything.
Yes, it's a very powerful but very simplistic screen recording tool, and it's been very what you call it, very handy in recording some very interesting videos, and we're planning to use this going forward for many, many things, not just, videos about the distro projects, but just so many things going forward with the tool.
It'd be an interesting teaching tool, like say somebody does a video, kind of like when they do
Yeah.
a distro
Tutorials
review,
or whatever you want to do.
or whatever,
Mhm.
or even a schooling event, where they actually say, a teacher can actually, it's it's a similar tool to SSR and OBS. I mean, it just has, kind of like a hybrid. I'm not sure how else to describe it, but just it's a fun project to have.
So
That's
Yeah.
really cool.
I have a bit of an interesting take on this. So years ago, when I was a product manager, I would do a lot of
Mm.
documentation, and in order to better explain things, sometimes I found it easier to just create videos,
Yeah,
and so I would use screen capture software. And one of the things that I consistently had difficulty with was notations, annotations, like being able to include things on the screen. And that, I think, takes it a little further beyond just a simple sort of screen capture. I think if you look at it from the standpoint of just the bare minimum of something like a, you know, simple screen recorder where, yes, it does some things and you can include your cursor and some things like that, but it doesn't really have a lot of um, extra tools. Whereas something like the one that I ended up buying and using was Snagit,
yeah, I
which
remember that one.
and it has an entire tool set around graphical overlays and different components that allow you to create like really professional looking um, video tutorials and stuff like that, where you've got to sort of include a lot of extra sort of data on top of just the video itself. So um, so from that standpoint, I think if you have the expectation that what you're trying to do is capture a, a you know a recording of your screen, and whether or not that's a long recording, like something you're going to capture many many minutes or maybe even hours, or something that is I used Peak as another one that I've used
Oh, I
quite a
remember
bit,
that.
which would create just sort of a shorter window capture.
Mhm.
And you could actually save it as a GIF file, or different. So the utility there was to be able to just grab something quickly and then demonstrate, okay, the option is in this part of the settings, and you just kind of show that 10-second clip. So screen recording is kind of a bit of a nebulous topic, so you got to kind of set your expectations and then also define what it is you're trying to, what need you're trying to fill. So yeah.
Right.
Well, that's a very interesting take on things, Eric. And I will say, man, as I always say, these screen programs, and also a lot of our other tools, have been a lot of work in progress and a lot of labor of loves that we all, as Linux people, have. We're just two regular guys trying to make Linux a very easy place to come to for people who don't know what the heck they're doing with Linux, and we just want to, help bring these people in and, make them feel right at home, and whether
Sound
we
like
do it. So
sound
we
like
want to
you're
do it
pitching
from,
a sitcom. They're just
yeah.
two regular guys trying to
Two
make
regular
Linux
guys,
easy
bosom
for.
buddies.
Trying to
Yes,
navigate the
yes,
world
we're
of Linux.
trying to. I mean, we're trying to make the world of Linux a happy and secure place, and we don't want people to come over to our platform and be like, "What the crap is this?"
No,
That's
here's
not.
the.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Rex.
anticipating people's needs is definitely
It's hard. It is hard.
it is
It's
hard, but
not
but it's
easy.
also
Yeah.
rewarding because if you get it right,
Mhm.
it is very noticeable to people that the effort has been put forth, and they very much appreciate it. So
Yes, no worries.
it's not
And
easy. But
It's not like the tools
yes,
didn't exist. They've been here for years, or who knows how long exactly. It's just a matter of just putting a GUI to a command line, that they exist. That's the thing. They've existed already. It's just not everyone really knew how to tap into them. And then it took the AIs to kind of instruct us, or just general practice. Say, oh wow, or even general research. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. You know.
Yeah, I think it's really neat that one AI can help you with that, but the thing is, it's neat that you've taken the time to one. I mean, you're learning a new skill, or
Yeah.
at least honing a skill at this point, and so you're taking that and you're sharing what you're learning with everybody. And that's one of the neat things I think about open source in general is
Mhm.
that avenue to be able to create and uh, and to share. And frankly, if somebody's a jerk about it, who cares? It's like whatever. Just do what you enjoy doing, and that's a great thing about the open source world and being able to create and to share and to develop something that is not for everybody, but there's probably a band of people, a band of users that might find it very valuable because it hits the user experience for creating a screen sharing of something, whatever it might be. This might be the
Yeah.
right workflow for them, because everyone has different workflows. I mean, people still use GNOME, so I mean, obviously people have different workflows, right, Eric?
Right.
that's me.
So anyway, so for those of us that tried it here, we had some mixed challenges with it.
Keep in mind, it's a lot of early work.
Right.
Some of the latest ones didn't come out until recently, was last week.
But we knew that going into it, so we're not going to hold that against it. I think it's really cool. Like, one, you've now been inspired with a name, Eye the Storm, and
yeah, we just came up with the name tonight, so who cares?
Yeah. So
Again,
we're
this
like
is an
it's
early
alpha.
build of it, so
it's more or
expect there
less-
to be. Yeah, I mean, like Nate said, and like Red said, there's a lot of things, not every desktop is going to work well with this. So, there being bugs, expect that to happen, because I mean, we don't have so don't call this a final product.
Oh, no.
I mean, as much as we like it to be, it's not anywhere near that just yet. Because again, this was built primarily with, AI's help. I mean, if we'd have built this thing from the scratch,
It would have taken a long time.
it would have taken a hell of a long time. We just did not want to make something entirely from scratch. We're not doing LFS here, guys. I mean, even if we were,
screen record from scratch.
Screen recorder, yeah, we're not doing that kind of thing. Nah. Please, just no.
Yeah, it's just only this is like a hobby,
This is a hobby project, So
that's
yeah,
what Linux is. Linux started as a hobby project.
Mhm.
Just saying.
Yes. It's like, think of this like, I don't know. Think of this like, the early days of Linux, so to speak.
Right. So, what would you say is your favorite, like, standout feature that you incorporated into this application, into Eye of the Storm?
In mine, it's the scheduled recorder. You
Okay.
can actually, like for example, if we knew we were going to be on for 2 hours, I can actually program the thing to record the screen for exactly 2 hours, and it'll stop,
That is
And
really cool.
that's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can actually program it for, like, if you're not gonna leave the computer on for a few days,
No.
you know what I mean, or whatever, you know, you can actually just, you can actually program it. It's got a calendar and everything and tell it exactly when, what time, for how long, and then set it and just walk away.
All right, could I make a feature request?
Sure.
Go
Try.
ahead.
So
We can look into it. Yeah.
all right. So because you can schedule recordings, could you have somewhere on
Yes.
there where you have like a digital looking LCD clock that just always flashes 12? Like a
It's
VCR?
actually, it's on the tool tray. It's not a
But is that-
flasher, but it's actually, it'll give you, like, you know, the tool tray, the tool tip tray.
Right, but it should just flash 12 like a VCR. Like no one ever programmed their VCR clocks in the 80s and 90s. And so that would just, you know what I'm saying? Like that would just make, it was kind of a meme before.
What about a
memes were memes.
notify send? You know, send to notify.
It's all right. Don't, I'm just trying to be silly, and I'm swinging and missing.
Oh, okay.
He's trying to be funny.
I thought you were serious.
No.
Oh
just-
goodness. We thought you actually wanted that.
No. I was just being nonsensical.
Oh,
But I know, like, if anybody in the chat, do they remember they could never program their VCR clock? Does anybody in the chat remember that?
oh, I remember that.
Remember
Yeah, I always had a
Sean?
hard time. I just left it.
Sean probably does. He
I-
probably remembers that.
I was that person that would go to someone's house, and if it was blinking, I would program it for them because it would
Yeah, I've
bother
done
me.
that too.
You gotta figure that the first VCRs, there was no menu. Like, if there was no menu button, you would have to, like, there was like different buttons to set time, to set the recording time. Everything was like a separate button. It was very complicated. It wasn't all just like click menu and click like arrows down or whatever. It wasn't like that at first.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Everything was just this giant. Well, so a lot of times you'd see like there would be some buttons visible, but then you'd flip down a panel and there would be like a wall of buttons. Yeah.
Right.
Right now.
You never knew what all of them did. Yeah, looks like some people here recall that. Guru the Digital said, always blinking 12. Mike Chilson says, the dreaded flashing 12. Match 7 retro intercepts. LOL, the flashing 12 meme. Yep. I think there was even like maybe it was a Simpsons or like Garfield or something cartoon episode where they talked about the flashing 12 too. But anyway, yeah, that's funny. That is funny. Anyway, I just think that's a funny thing. Well, cool. So are there any other features like Ben that you find that are something that are stand out? That you're
Good
excited about?
question, actually. There. Good question.
Or what was the question again?
Yeah.
For Ben,
please.
like what his stand-up features. So your Seeker being like the
Oh.
scheduling.
Mine would probably be similar to his, where I like the ability that we're able to have the number cruncher during the recording. That kind of stuff. I actually do like that. It's very helpful to see that. Yes, because there's times where I'll be recording something, and it definitely helps to have that kind of thing. So, because there's times where I'll be recording something, like I said, and I'll get lost, or I'll get in the middle of something and I won't remember to pause the video. And it definitely helps to have that indicator to sort of help with that,
It's either a square, in some cases it's a square when it's not recording, it's a round circle when it is recording on a tray.
Yeah, that's
That's what you're talking about.
typical. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are there any features that you want to? So obviously there's some like, so there's like some work to be done, some polishing to be done to it, some rough edges, making it work for more
pretty much
systems and so forth.
Yeah, and pretty much the program is pretty much, there's not much more I can throw at it. The kitchen sinks, everything is in there. It's got a limitation to it, based on the original the FFmpeg, that's the heart of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got some limitations. I mean, I've tried, actually, there was one point where I was actually thinking of adding a clock as an overlay, but it was having interference and it was having problems. So I couldn't add that. I was thinking of, replacing or I was thinking of different ways of how to actually implement a clock, but as an overlay as it's being recorded, you know, or like a countdown of how many minutes you have left on the recording as an overlay while it's being recorded there,
Right.
or even as it's streamed through YouTube or Twitch, which it has that ability too.
Do you have a roadmap of things you want to accomplish, like over the next, let's just say, year, like things that you're hoping to accomplish with the application?
No, only because everything that I want to accomplish is just about done.
Okay.
It's only taken me a month plus. There's not much more I really want to do to it. I mean, I can't make it any smaller. I don't want to add any more additional features. It'll just get overloaded. That's pretty much it right now. I mean, there's aside from just minor updates every so often, but that's pretty much it. I'm just trying to get it to work for OpenSUSE. I've tested it in Fedora. Fedora has a slight issue. OpenSUSE Leap, it's workable, but OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, it's more successful there. Then it works in Arch. I've got to test it with UBen for Gentoo, and it works with Ubuntu and Debian.
Well, fantastic. So,
And for Anarita out there, if it works in Ubuntu, it should work in Mint as well.
Yeah, it works in Mint also. Oh yeah, I tested it in Mint. I forgot.
Yeah, he checked it in Mint. Yeah.
So, is there any plans for Wayland support? Because I'm sort of on the Wayland.
No,
train these
because
days.
FFmpeg only uses X11. I'm sorry, FFmpeg because it uses X11 tools also. So not right now, no. So maybe
Okay.
maybe a little bit later on.
I thought FFmpeg worked in maybe certain parts of it.
Yeah. Well, it's actually using X11 tools also.
So it looks like, I don't know. I'm looking here.
Well,
Hey, there's probably some sort of like portal thing or something you'd have to like do, or I don't know. I'm not a programmer. I'm not a doctor. I know what I'm doing. Welcome, Cruz. Nice to have you. So we have Swift and Cruz. I think Swift kind of left and came back. He probably left his keys in the car or something, and before walking into the Linux Saloon. I don't know.
Good to be here as well, man. Night, everyone.
Yeah, have you seen Terry in a while? He's been kind of quiet. I haven't heard from him in a bit.
Yeah, he's okay. He's okay. He had a little apartment issue.
Oh,
He's in YouTube chat.
is he?
Yeah, he's there.
Oh golly, I didn't see him. Well, what can you do, I guess.
He's watching.
Well, good. I'm glad he's at least lurking. I mean, because I wanted to know if there's any like new streaming services that he's into, or some deals in streaming. I don't know, something like that.
They shut down any of the streaming services. I thought I saw a cord cutters report, like they were shutting down on one or two or three of them.
Who knows? Who knows?
Mm.
Well, anyway, back to the streaming app. So, yeah, if Wayland can be an option, I know there's like there's a
Well, there is a product for GNOME that is for Wayland. It's like a screencast recorder also, but it's kind of like a reddish icon of old timey movies.
Okay.
And I think I saw a Python script a while back, 2 or 3 months ago, that actually the person took that and put it into their Python script to kind of make something similar to what I did, but not to that extent. So he incorporated that for Wayland. And I was thinking about doing the same thing, but I said, no, let me just more work, because his script was more elaborate.
Yeah, it could be because I know with Wayland it's all about portals, accessing things through the different portals. So I'm sure there may be some vehicle as such, but I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just spitballing here. Anyway, so well, very cool. So I wanted to also talk about like tangentially now, and we can always weave it back into Eye of the Storm here. But for screen recording apps, so I'm for me personally, I've been using either Simple Screen Recorder because that's all I needed, or OBS because that's what I needed because I can switch between different sources and whatnot, and I didn't want to have to edit it later. But I'm kind of curious. For those that do use screen recording apps, like I don't know, Adam might. Adam, do you use screen recording apps? I know I can tell by your face right now you're very excited about.
Yeah, I
screen
use
recording apps.
Windows Recall. Yeah.
Okay.
You heard of
Windows. Yeah, it's it's very privacy focused
Yeah,
screen
yeah.
recording app, right? Yeah.
Incredibly safe, incredibly secure,
And not at all subject to any CrowdStrike issues, correct?
and not at all a bad idea. No.
Yeah, not at all. I can't see anything going wrong with Recall.
Anytime I need to record my screen, it's just OBS.
Okay. Now, is it because you're just comfortable with OBS, or is there some feature in OBS that you prefer?
I think the performance is better generally.
Okay.
The quality of the recordings tend to be better. I have a little more control over that.
Okay. I was having some OBS issues here at the beginning of the stream. It kept crashing on me. It's making me really happy. Anyway, it's fine now, I think. I'm not going to look at it just in case. What about you, Eric? I know you've done some video production in the past. Was it largely OBS for you? Gesundheit.
Yeah, for something like streaming or even well, no, I mean, if I was doing like YouTube videos when I was into that, I would use a mix. I found something like Simple Screen Recorder to just be a simpler solution. I mean, as you would expect from the name, but if I was really just trying to gather, B-roll or just like, not if there was no need for any kind of switching between a camera. I mean, OBS is really about giving you that flexibility of scenes and layers of the scenes and stuff like that, and it can really be overkill if all you're trying to do is capture your screen and make a quick video about hey, here's this setting and plasma or something. So I would use a mix of both, really. OBS is a great tool for producing something more complicated, like I said, and there's always room for a more straightforward, simple, sort of just set it and forget it kind of thing, that's reliable. It's not OBS is kind of a pig in terms of like it adds a lot of overhead to what you're doing. It's even if it's only 5 or 10% of the processor usage on a laptop or something like that. If you're already doing something else like a virtual machine or something, adding that on top then adds that much more to it. So there are times when OBS is really not advantageous, simply because that it is a heavier program. But yeah, I mean, when it came to streaming, there really is no competition. I mean, StreamYard, there's a couple that I tried that really, because you get used to using OBS and you have all of these capabilities available to you, all the flexibility of plugins and all this stuff, and then you try to use an off-the-shelf solution like StreamYard, and it feels very limiting, even though it's very polished and slick in some ways. It is very limiting, and so it does feel like there is a space for something between something as simple as like a simple screen recorder and OBS. So there's a bit of a gap there where maybe something that's more capable but isn't as, I guess, monolithic or
heavy,
sort of trying to do all those things that would be more lightweight, yet like the idea that Seeker saying, well, you can just set a timer for 2 hours, like that kind of functionality, right? That's actually very useful in some cases. And so I think there's absolutely room for a tool like that.
I mean, in my case, if do you mind if I interject for a moment?
Yeah, this is
No, I
about
was
you,
just
man.
gonna say is, it's working in OpenSUSE right now. I'm actually just double checking a few things. It's just about working. But it's like, I mean, I I don't have it loaded on my tray because I was using it as a test. I was testing some of the earlier or older ones just to look at the code. But if I want just to like watch our show, I just hit, record and I just leave it at that, or I could put a timer to it and just record it and forget it and walk away. And while you guys are watching, I said I'm eating or I'm attending the dog, and I just come back, it's done, and I just rewatch the video. That's it. Or in this, it's kind of weird, but even though it's on YouTube, it's still,
Yep. The
VCR.
I could see a feature like that would be very valuable. I'm just thinking about like,
Mhm.
let's say when you want like TiVo. You can almost use it like a TiVo, I suppose.
Oh, I remember those. Yeah.
It's good stuff right there.
I
Very
remember
cool.
those
Yep.
days.
TiVo was magnificent.
You
How
remember
about
Rabbit?
the expansion for extra storage, and yeah, I had like the Uber TiVo.
Do you guys remember the Rabbit duplicator from the like one TV to another? It was kind of strange, but it was
No,
interesting.
I didn't know that one.
I think it's
Did I-
interesting how GPL2 and versus GPL3 with the TiVoization.
Yep.
And now TiVo's so old that that's an old reference. So you can't even use that as a reference to speak about GPL3 versus GPL2.
Yeah, I don't. There really aren't a lot of people that remember what TiVo is at this point. I mean, you could say DVR, and someone would understand what a DVR is, but standalone hardware doing that, and then the at the time the commercial skipping and some of the things that it did was just like, magic.
Yep. I was kind of like thinking back. I don't know, like, maybe with rose tinted glasses, but there's something almost magical about that era. When it had all these like strange gadgets to do strange things, and now we're
Well, the internet wasn't really a thing yet, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was you could go there and research things, but nobody was streaming video or
Mhm.
it things still had to be self-contained to some degree. And yeah, you're right. There was this like there were so many video recorder or media type gadgets that have all been sort of superseded by smartphones, tablets, smart devices, stuff like that, because they've become the jack of all trades.
Right.
Like a camera. How many people have a standalone little point and shoot camera anymore? Like, why?
Like only hobbyists or professionals.
Yeah.
I got that Sony, like a nicer Sony like mirrorless camera that I like to use.
Oh well, that's not a point and shoot. That's a actual like take really nice pictures with camera.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And the cameras, the cell phone cameras can do almost a good. Actually, they can do just about a better job almost. They're used as what studios, kind of like a few people, Soderbergh and a few others already made a few films with the cameras.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's,
I
like,
actually
something
have
like an
that
iPhone.
Sony. I've had that mirrorless camera on my wish list for like 3 years, thinking like one of these days. But every time I go to buy it, I think, what am I really going to use this for?
Yeah.
If I spend this money, what am I going to do besides having it be like a better webcam? And does anyone really need to see me in higher definition? I'm not entirely convinced. So
Yeah.
anyway, the mirrorless cameras are, according to Wendy, right? And that was my source because I
Right.
kind of grilled her, like, what's the best kind of camera? And she was like, well, if you can swing the mirrorless, they're better than
Was it-
DSL.
It wasn't that expensive, really. I think my only
Yeah,
real
they're
issue
like
with it,
400, maybe
Yeah.
something like that.
yeah.
I'm
But it
cheap,
takes
man. What do you want me to
great
say?
pictures. Well, yeah, okay. I got it. I understand. I will say though, it does great for stills, and I did buy it for like the video capability also. But I do have a little bit of trouble with it. Like after about 20 minutes, it overheats and shuts off.
Wow.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that. I thought they were pretty robust when it came to that.
They are. Just don't do 20 minutes more than 20 minutes of recording. Nope. Most normal people probably wouldn't do more than 20 minutes of recording, really.
Yeah, well, that's true. I guess it would depend too on the quality setting. I would assume if you had it on a lower setting, it probably would be But my Pixel does the same thing. I try to record my daughter at like school functions or something, and if it runs longer than 5 or 10 minutes, my phone starts complaining about being too hot.
Huh.
It's like, well, am I not supposed to use it?
It's just there
Did someone
for
not test this, or
it's just there for a bullet on the side of the box.
yeah, right.
Yeah. A good deal. Well, that was good.
Mhm.
Appreciate taking the time to do that application.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun. So, did anybody have any other screen recording apps they wanted to talk about? Is that kind of really? I was
There's
gonna say
only
this totally aside,
Kazam
but
was one of them. Remember Kazam? And there's one for Wayland. There's Blue Recorder, I think. That one's actually a Wayland one.
I don't know. Does the simple screen recorder still work? Does it work in Wayland?
It does, yeah,
Nope.
it does.
So you're using a non-X11 Windows system. Example Wayland, which is currently not supported by simple screen recorder. Several features are most likely not going to work. All right, whatever. I'm glad OBS works in Wayland, so at least there's that. A good deal. All right, so I guess we'll do a little next week. We have an it's a news flight week. I don't know why it's not the right thing here. It's in the calendar because I did update that, Eris. So we have news flight night next week, and so if you have any news stories and whatnot that you want to talk about, maybe some additional developments on what's going on here in the World Wide Web of interesting tech stories, we'll talk about it there. So, news flight. We've got a great channel. I think it's considered a channel or group in the Telegram. So if you have any any news topics, you can throw them in there. There's a specific group for that. So news articles or open source, whatever. You can plop it in there. There's also tips and tricks, which is also fun. So if you have any other suggestions for Linux Saloon, you can send them to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com. There's also a calendar. I got to be prodded to keep it updated, but I got that, I think, updated for like the next month or so. So those should be pretty accurate. And if there's an adjustment in time, I'll adjust it in the calendar as well to make sure that you know. So you can. It is a Google Calendar, so if that offends you, I apologize. Adam, I'll make sure I'll maybe make an Outlook calendar for you. So when your computer comes back up, you can, look at that.
It's the least you could do.
I know. So if you have any distribution suggestions, so we have one distribution coming up in a couple weeks that you think we should check out, please feel free to suggest away, or any other additional applications or poll ideas, because Eris is coming up with these poll ideas all the time. He does a fantastic job. But if you want to give him a hand, feel free. Eris is, I'm sure he'll appreciate any help or any ideas anyway. So I wanted to get to the news. Did anybody notice anything weird on Friday?
On the global internet blackout, maybe? Is that the one you're talking about? Or
Yeah. So
I was actually talking to a friend of mine, and she was saying, it's so weird. I tried to pay with my credit card, and I couldn't pay with it. So I went to the bank, and the bank said they couldn't tell me any information about what was going on. And I'm like thinking, that's really odd. And then this was like an hour before I had heard the news, so I had sort of an on the ground preview of someone having an issue, which was kind of crazy.
Yeah, there was a lot of memes out there, but I was flying home from Texas on Friday morning. Now, actually, let me back up. At about 2:30 in the morning, I got a call from one of the plants that I'm the IT manager for, and they said that the system was down. This was an external service. Now that external service did come back up pretty quickly, so somebody who were contracted to have, it's an external service. They got it back up and operational pretty quickly, but that went down, and I didn't think much of it. So when I got to the airport on Friday morning, I noticed like every monitor in the airport had the blue screen of death with a frowny face. 'Cause I like the new ones. I think the new blue screen of death is way less deathy, a little more exciting.
Blue screen
Anyway,
of disappointment.
yes, blue screen of disappointment because it has a sad face and a QR code. But anyway, and I'm like, wow, this is really weird. And so as I'm walking to my gate, because I did get in, I got through security. I checked in the night before, so I already had my tickets. Got through security, and then like, about every 5 minutes they're announcing there's a nationwide internet outage. They didn't say what it was, but they couldn't board any of the planes. I'm like, whoa, what is going on here? I think I did share a picture in the Telegram of what I saw. But anyway, so I thought it was pretty wild to have such a thing happen here. But what it was, and I watched a few videos on it, so I might screw it up here. But essentially, what it was it wasn't all Windows systems that were affected by this. It was Windows systems that had CrowdStrike. I'm going to say CloudStrike, but it's not CrowdStrike. That had that as their anti-malware platform, as it were. And so essentially it was a mistake in a pointer in one of the updates, and so every machine that was affected could be fixed, but it was a manual intervention. You had to go through and essentially fix it. You have to delete a couple of files, and then it would come back. Exactly how to do those files, I'm not sure. Maybe go into recovery mode or something like that. But anyway, so it was possible to fix. It's not a total like catastrophic outage, but it was pretty catastrophic because so many things are remote and not accessible. Now, thankfully, none of my systems that I manage had CrowdStrike on it. We use other things, so we were unaffected by that. But it kind of makes you think, having these single or one vendor that has influence in so many machines, that does seem problematic. And kind of where I want to bring this to, like in the Linux side of things, like Linux systems with CrowdStrike unaffected. But what I want to bring this to is, Adam, you're a longtime IT professional. So how monolithic were the systems that you've dealt with? Was there a lot of variety, or was there sort of one system like a Red Hat that used Red Hat server or something across a bunch of things?
So, I mean, there's a variety of OSs you might use, but the OS is less important than the sort of agents you might use on the box, or any kind of like in this case endpoint security thing. For example, there can be applications that maybe manage your like software stack and stuff on the machine, or manage vulnerability patching and stuff, and those agents can be extremely heavy on their own. They can affect performance. They can have their own bugs with database software. And so the problem becomes when you start to reach out to a bunch of different vendors and you start to mix and match these solutions. You can end up in situations where one causes a problem with the other. So I don't think it's not very common to find a monolithic, like, hey, we bought every single thing from Microsoft and everything we run is from Microsoft, or everything we run is from Red Hat. And you'll find a lot of different vendors, and in the process of selecting those, you'll go through and have POCs or proof of concepts where they might build it in your environment to prove that it works for you and all that. Like it's not nearly as monolithic as you think. And in the case of CrowdStrike, it's not that CrowdStrike is such a monolithic product. It's a ubiquitous product. It's all over the place, and there's tons of people who've never even heard of the software until this, right? And that's the nature of just enterprise IT. Is it's a lot of sort of things people don't notice until things go wrong. And CrowdStrike just probably had a really good sales department, really good deals that probably ticked a lot of boxes for a lot of organizations. And then when it's everywhere and you make one mistake, then a lot of people are affected by it. I personally think that this is probably more of a consequence of the agile development methodology that a lot of places use, and that there's really no time spent on a lot of testing. It's sort of test as you build, and this is kind of where we're at with that, but that's a whole other argument. Yeah, so because I'm sure there's tons of people asking, why was this not caught beforehand? And it's because, well, there's probably like 10 guys who work on this product, and they can only do so much.
Yeah, I made a comment in a different Telegram group, and Adam's response was, "No time to test, sprint and release. Got to maintain velocity and keep those story points high." Story
Yeah.
points being something on an agile development process. But it is true, and it's basically like a points factory. They have to be, producing, pushing, constant progress, and it's a little unfair to throw the developers under the bus because it's a systemic issue. It's not just the 10 guys or however many people. I mean, obviously, it's easy to point at them and just say, look, this should have never happened. And of course, you hope that that is true, but ultimately, like, they're a part of the business, and that business, like Adam says, has a different delivery departments, different areas of focus and responsibility. And, it wasn't just one person that made a mistake. It was something that is baked in that failed. And the retrospective on this is going to be, how did this happen? How do we make sure it doesn't happen again?
And probably
the
nothing will change.
and probably not, but the constant, like Adam said, the consequence of this now, and not just, think about Cloudflare has had problems, and they're a huge DNS provider for a lot of different organizations. um there are certain verticals within the tech space that are sort of dominated by a few key players. And the unfortunate consequence of that is 99.9% of the time it works exactly the way you hope it would. Everything's, you stream your television, you use your credit card, you take a flight, like whatever it is, all of this stuff that is incredibly complicated and reliant on, the communication between all these networks and systems just works the way it should. But unfortunately, that 0.05% of the time that it fails catastrophically and causes everyone to go, holy cow, like what's going on? Like, how is it possible that this can happen? Well, I mean, that's the way systems are, like,
So
so
I thought it was
I-
funny.
go ahead.
I was
Sorry.
gonna say something quick. I thought it was funny that CrowdStrike on Twitter posted, "Today of all days, please remember our name is CrowdStrike. To the teams at CrowdStrike, hang in there." Heart emoji.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be
This
associated
ain't
with
us, guys. Yeah.
CrowdStrike.
Yeah.
There was I thought I saw it on Twix somewhere, but there was a I don't know if it's true or not, but isn't someone who was at Kaspersky, it was like 10 years ago, there was like a big how do you do with Kaspersky like failing something. I could be getting the story wrong. Maybe it's a different company. So
it's the CEO of CrowdStrike that was at another company that also
a
had a
problem.
catastrophic failure.
Yeah.
And so he's 2 for 2 now.
Yeah, so maybe it's him. Maybe that's some sort of like issue with how he leads his people. Maybe is what I'm thinking.
He could be pushing and cutting corners. There's tremendous pressure on these companies to be very lean.
Yeah. You'd be very surprised how few people are in charge of running such huge systems.
Yeah. Yep.
I worked at a Fortune 500 company, and there were 7 of us managing our national data centers. 7 of us.
Yeah.
I
Hope
mean,
you're not all in the same plane sometime or something,
Right, yeah.
I mean, I get it. There's 2 rather large processing plants for which there are 2 IT individuals between the 2 plants. So I kind of get it. I'm working on that. But anyway, I kind of get it. But at the same time, like, I kind of don't get it either. I mean,
IT is overhead.
it is, and that's why I get it, because if you look at the numbers,
it's a cost center, not a profit center.
Right. It's not a profit center. You don't make money from IT. It costs you money, but you can't make money. It's an enabler to make money, though. That's the thing. So, yeah, it's one of those things. Like I get it, but also I don't agree with it. Does that make sense?
There's,
yeah, totally.
There's not enough liability in IT. And that's why you
And
have all
also
these,
this-
you have all these like leaks and everything because there's not enough liability, basically.
Right.
Also, to get ahead of all the wackiness, this is not a Windows problem. This actually happened from CrowdStrike software back in April on a bunch of Linux boxes. So just to get ahead of the fanboys,
Well, but here's the thing.
you're not immune.
I'm going to be a fanboy, and I'm going to act like I don't know that. Just
Well,
so
I
you're
will
aware.
remind you every day.
And then I'll just say, well, I use OpenSUSE. It didn't happen on any of my OpenSUSE machines. Something very like anecdotal that is meaningless. Can I at least do that?
It's kind of hard to happen on something nobody uses.
Oh man.
Burn.
Hey, I'm using it a little bit right now.
Now, is it because they don't use OpenSUSE because it has a yet another different name now? Is
It's
that
too
why?
good. That's why.
Oh, it's too good. Yeah,
Oh,
no,
okay.
it's yeah. Now you got it's because you have the seemingly now the corporate 3 or 4 years ago the SUSE corporate was like, no, OpenSUSE is ours. You can't not breaking it off. No foundation, stuff like that. Now they're like, well, I think we kind of want to get rid of you. So I don't know. Corporations are silly.
Technically, you can't use OpenSUSE, right? There's no such thing as OpenSUSE the distro.
No, it's a
Like
project.
either because you use Leap, you use Tumbleweed, you use.
Yeah.
What is it? Is it Leap, Tumbleweed, and what else? Is there something else?
Oh yeah, there's MicroOS, then there's like Aeon, there's a bunch of different.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there's tons of different things. Because OpenSUSE is a project. They also have OBS as a project. They have a bunch of other like
Yeah.
open source like little Kiwi's another one. All these different little things that fall into the OpenSUSE brand. And I think I hope someone at SUSE like the whole
I
article I
actually
read. I
like
think
Tumbleweed playing with it. I actually enjoy Tumbleweed a little bit, only because it reminds me of Arch, because it's bleeding edge.
it's not so bleeding.
Yeah, I know. It's Arch is more, but so
It's
is
a rolling
Jet.
release that's more conservative than Fedora, I would say.
Oh, I played with Fedora. I'm not that happy with it.
Well, Fedora tries new things, and that's what makes it cool.
Yeah. Nate, I actually have a distro suggestion, but after that I gotta head off. But regardless, I was wanting to suggest Red and I's latest ISO for the next distro exploration kind of thing.
Sure. I mean, yeah, we can talk about it next week. But yeah, put that in the
No
chat
worries.
somewhere. Put it in here in the chat.
Yeah,
and
I'll
we'll
put it
go
in
down.
the I'll put the link in the
link.
Telegram
Perfect.
chat.
Even better.
Yeah,
Do you want me to pull you after we're done, or?
Yeah, we can look
do
into
whatever.
that, Red. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right.
So
Well, I'll drop that link in the Telegram group, and I'll catch you guys next week.
cool. Well, thank you very much for hanging out.
Okay, see you later.
All right, see you guys.
So I guess what I was going to say, Adam, the by the whole CrowdStrike issue. So it seems like this is just me, but computers in general, endpoint machines, have become so complex and so as the attack surface is so great now. I would say, if I may put it like that, that we have to have these other agents in there to protect them, which causes additional overhead and also introduces other vulnerabilities. Would that be a fair statement?
You can, sure. The idea is nothing is risk free, and it's all risk management at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
If your endpoint management solution reduces the vulnerabilities that are inherent to the system and other software that might interact with it, and it itself might have vulnerabilities, it's easier to patch a single endpoint. So since the endpoint management software would take care of all the rest of it, if the vulnerability is in the endpoint management software, that's only one thing you have to think about keeping up to date in that way. So you actually reduce the risk overall. It's actually why the single sign-on stuff is such an advantage. Like, instead of having accounts that you have to manage all over the place, you only have to worry about securing one account. It sounds like it's one point of failure, but it's actually easier to keep that one point secure than it is to keep tens or hundreds of points secure.
Right. No, I get it.
That's the idea. Yeah.
I understand. Yeah,
So,
there's
yeah, it's just risk management. I mean, there's always the chance of vulnerabilities. There's always a chance of any number of things, but most of the time, vulnerabilities in software aren't generally the way people get in. So
yeah, it's usually phishing or some other
Phishing.
human
Yep.
engineering
Yep.
flaw.
Over and over, phishing.
Yep.
the weakest point in any IT security is the staff,
Yep.
and you can't patch the staff.
No.
Well, we do continuous
No, I
training.
mean
like
you can
I-
do a
like-
better job, but I'm usually surprised by how much access junior people have to systems that you would think like only the most senior or people that would like absolutely have to have access to something. And it's like, oh yeah, the guy that's been here for 3 months somehow has access to like, push updates. It just always sort of makes me scratch my head like I guess I
So
just don't.
there's a separate mindset to that, Eric, and that is if you have people that you lock down to a point where it becomes difficult to do their job, they're going to go around you and they're going to do things insecure because they went around you.
Yeah, I get that. But I think there is a balance. Obviously,
Certainly,
like
but
N-
I
Nate
think
says training, but
I know what you were referring to. Like it's really tempting to just sort of lock down everything, but it ends up sort of that whole Tarkin thing where you squeeze too hard and it slips through your fingers.
yeah,
Yep.
That's kind of the idea, right? Is that
Yeah.
if you lock it down too much, then people are just going to find ways to go around you. And
It-
then you really have a problem because now you have this shadow IT problem where you're not even aware of these vulnerable bits of software and vulnerable
cowboys.
things.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So then it becomes a real problem.
I do not envy Nate the idea of being in management in IT. I did just local, sysadmin type stuff for a single office and had employees and felt like I had to follow up on every single thing they did because ultimately the responsibility of me or the me being responsible for everything good or bad, I personally felt like I had to make sure that that I understood the bad, and
hmm
I think I was heavy-handed, um, and I think it probably was a situation where I was uh, too aggressive with that, and I had people that were probably not happy about it. So I get it, I do, but it is definitely a tug of war of like appropriate access and too much. So
Right. Yeah, I think yeah, I think that's I think just in general that's kind of a tough one to balance, and I probably don't get it right a lot. But I mean, what can you do, right?
it's a practice, right? You just keep doing what you can,
hmm
and you have to be. I think the people who are the best managers are the ones that are willing to listen and understand when they're not doing something that's counterproductive or harmful, um, and are able to admit that and so basically anyone who's not in the C-suite, because every C-level executive I've ever met was so full of themselves they could never fathom that they weren't you know the genius people that they thought they were.
No way.
I swear they are some of
Yeah.
the most clever people you'll ever meet.
Are they?
Oh yeah, especially when you get to explain things on them. It's like testifying in front of Congress. When I'd go into a
Yeah,
meeting
except
with the
Congress is a bunch
C-suite.
of 5-year-olds. Okay, so Congress, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So no, I'm just saying it would be. That's what it felt like. I would be sitting there on the witness stand, like and they'd be grilling me about completely inconsequential or unrelated things.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Can we please focus on? But what about no? That's that does not
It,
matter.
it's like we had a
Uh,
network outage. We were doing a root cause analysis. So who had Spotify installed? What? Like, yeah, it's that level of just Do we need to get rid of Spotify? Yeah, we need Apple Music. That's what we need to do. It's just Spotify's just not doing it.
And you know what? And I think you should take credit for that because you
Yeah.
thought of it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when we roll out Apple Music, your name's on it, sir.
That's oh my goodness.
I only wish it was that much hyperbole, but it's not.
So I would say one nice thing about where I work, I kind of make the calls for IT, so I don't think it's on me, which is kind of stressful because, it's on me.
Trust me, the opposite would be much worse. Because the opposite is you don't get to make the decision, but you get to fall on the sword.
Right, exactly. But it makes it fun. I make mistakes.
And let's not forget the General Schwarzkopf level of dashboards and infographics you got to throw at the people when you give the presentation.
Listen, if you don't have that, you obviously haven't been doing enough if you don't have that.
So
right.
I work
not getting the network back up or anything like that. No, I've been making dashboards for you.
The company that I work for, they don't want that actually. So
you're working at a unicorn, sir.
I am working at a unicorn. I have no intention of, as long as it stays fun like this, I have no intention of ever leaving.
I think you would be literally insane to leave.
Yeah.
No, they're very much like, all right, like there's an issue or they want to do something, like, okay, just do it and go. There's no like big presentation or whatever. It's not just and go, which is pretty cool.
I think that level of trust in the actual practitioner of something, right, where there's a subject matter expert and they're allowed to be the expert, that is ideally, I think. And honestly, I don't want to get into politics, but the idea that the Supreme Court just sort of neutered the different departments in the in the country that are supposed to be the experts, and like that just is sort of a head scratcher because why even be there? I mean, I've felt that way at my company often, where it was like, it didn't matter that someone was very knowledgeable. I mean, I've talked to Adam about this, about him having a being the Linux person and having so much skepticism thrown at him because
Yep.
of
You're like, are you sure? Are you sure we can't do it this way or that way?
And they do it the hard way, like almost on purpose. And then, you give them a solution that fixes all their problems and they still can't believe that it's like, it's
they still say no. They're like, no, we can't do that. Okay. Well, enjoy your problem that's unsolved.
like job security or something, right?
Sure. This is how you generate what I refer to as retired employees. People who are still working, but just they don't care at all, and they're just like counting the days,
Yeah.
Well,
so, one of the things I like to do is, because I do have one employee that, I work with, that I'm responsible for. When I have an idea about something, about how we can solve a problem, this might sound novel, but I don't just do it. I socialize the idea with him. We kind of war game it out to see if this is a good solution or not. And so I don't force an idea. It's more like, here's the solution, or here's the problem, and here are a couple of solutions. What do you think is the best way to attack this? And I think by using that approach, I find that we seem to work together on a solution much like without really any kind of conflict or disagreement. It's kind of neat.
what a novel idea. Talking to the employees instead of just dictating at them.
It sounds dangerous to me. You start putting ideas in their heads like they have agency and yeah. I mean, come on.
Can't do that.
Anna Rita says, Nate, that is manipulation. So I didn't think it was.
Wait. So let me get this straight. So you talk with this person, and you
Mhm.
try to make sure he ends up at the correct answer at the end, right?
No.
That's how the game goes.
What I say is, here's the problem. Here's my thoughts. What are your thoughts? And he says, well, these are my thoughts. Like, okay, which one can we implement to get the desired results? So sometimes it's a combination of the two ideas to get to the final result. I don't know. It seems to work well so far. I don't want to get into specifics because I don't want to talk about the company, you know.
You shouldn't.
Yeah, so I gotta be careful how I say things. But oh no, I don't make people think it was their idea. I just we discuss with it, you know, how we can solve. Like actually, a lot of times it's a Windows issue, and I'm clueless. Like I don't know how to fix it. Wipe it and put Linux on there, but we can't do that. That'd be my solution. But we have different problems, like angry people. So anyway, that's good times. Well, anyway, CrowdStrike, good times. Hopefully, I don't know. What do you think is gonna? What do you think the fallout's gonna be from this? Do you think anything's gonna change? Do you think that CEO is gonna leave, start another company?
And then just screw that other company over. Or,
Yeah. Or we're gonna just forget about it in a week? I think I vote we're gonna forget about it in a week.
Shannon Doherty already made that happen when she passed on. So many news reports of the poor woman passing away from cancer.
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably be the CEO fails upward as they tend to do.
Yeah.
And, he'll get his golden parachute and then go on to some other unheard of, unknown company and,
He can
make
start
his.
another company, and then 5 to 10 years, this thing can happen again, just like before.
Yeah,
Perfect.
exactly. Yep. As long as that company is growing and their value goes up quarter by quarter, that's all that matters.
You know, speaking of that, I learned about Publix. With they're kind of, I think they're based out of Florida, aren't they?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
grocery store.
Yeah. So I didn't know this. So I have a relative that works for Publix in their IT department. And apparently, one, he says they're a great company to work for, but apparently they don't grow on debt. They're a cat. They have zero debt as a company, and they only grow as much as they can actually afford. So that as a consequence, they pay their employees well. They have good benefits, and people are generally happy, and the stores are clean and everything else. So I thought it was a very interesting. Not all companies play the stupid game, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not
Unfortunately,
perfect, obviously.
Yeah, their owners are a little bit on the fringe, but yeah, the company itself, they are dominant. I mean, it's amazing. There were 3 or 4 different, maybe even 5 or 6 different grocery chains here when we moved here almost
Sweet
20
Bay
years
with
ago.
Big C. Sweet Bay's gone.
Sweet Bay is gone. Yeah, I mean they've just come in and really sort of dominated. And thankfully, there's Aldi as an alternative.
Who
Because
didn't Big C buy out all these?
uh, no, the other way around. Aldi bought out
All they
Winn-Dixie.
bought out Winn-Dixie.
Yeah, the one that they bought here, they've left as a Winn-Dixie, but it's owned by Aldi. But yeah, I mean, if you
Are you
didn't,
saying
basically
Aldi or
it's
Audi?
Aldi, Aldi.
Yeah. The German company. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, they have
I like them.
the essentials. They're very good with like pricing on essentials, milk, eggs, like bread, that kind of stuff. Whereas those things at Publix are at least 3 or 4 times as expensive.
Yeah, for
And
no reason.
that's really the pressure you get whenever you have that monopolistic aspect. Well, I mean, the truth is that Walmart apparently sells 1 in 3 grocery items in the country. So there's a Walmart right next to the Publix, like literally a mile down the road from me, and both of them are always full. But apparently Walmart just has a larger reach. But yeah, Publix is, and I mean, their employees are are nice. The stores are clean. They routinely update them. They don't have a bunch of old, like Winn-Dixie has a bunch of like old tired stores, and it really, you don't want to shop there. I mean, it's kind of it's kind of a vanity thing, I think, in some respects. But anyway, it's funny because it's almost like the opposite of a food desert, where the food desert is there's no real food to be had. It's just junk food at
Swamp.
bodegas and stuff. And it's kind of the other side of it where we have like premium high end, Publix and Whole Foods and like there's the lower sort of more affordable groceries. If Aldi wasn't here, seriously, like it would be we'd have to drive a good long way to get to a store that had something like that. So.
Yeah, I shop at Aldi because that's what I can afford. So,
Groceries are crazy expensive.
yep. Yes, they are. Yep. Price of everything is kind of crazy right now. But
Yep.
I guess that's what happens sometimes.
Does Eris have his hand up?
He does
Yeah,
have his hand.
man.
He's very polite. You should just butt in.
I was just gonna say that I found it interesting that they offer free medicine to customers.
Aldi?
This
Wow.
it says
Yeah.
Publix.
Public.
Yeah,
So
I,
this
get-
is
I get
in-
my flu shots and stuff there. Yeah.
Yeah, you can get flu shots there.
Not only are they free, sometimes they incentivize it and they'll give you like a $20 gift card if you come and get your flu shot there.
Yep.
It says that in August 2007, they offered several types of antibiotics free to customers. You just needed a prescription. Amoxicillin, ampicillin,
Yeah, they do
penicillin.
that for also dog medications too.
And then in 2010, they started offering free metformin for type 2 diabetes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Really?
that's interesting.
Yeah,
Should've-
I use their pharmacy and I have for many years. It's
Oh.
they have
I
really
didn't know
good
that
people
pharmacy.
that work there. Yeah.
But that's not very capitalist of them. How can they take advantage of their customers?
Well, capitalism
By
isn't
selling
taking
them the
to
other
customer.
expensive stuff.
Capitalism just is the freedom to choose whoever you want to do your business with. That's all capitalism is.
You're supposed to go down the middle of the aisles, right in the center of the store. That's where all the good stuff is for them.
Nope. You always shop the outside of the store. That's where the things are that are good for you. Anything in the middle that with a heart logo on it that says, heart friendly, that means it's actually going to give you a heart attack. So,
Like I
think
said,
my
good for
favorite-
them.
I think my favorite is whenever they put something like gluten free on something they couldn't possibly have gluten in it anyway.
oh yes, like bananas.
Like as if
gluten-free.
Yeah, yeah. So Ness actually showed me a thing earlier. It was a loaf of bread and it said plant based. I sure hope it's not meat based bread.
Well, it means there's no egg in there, I guess, right?
Yeah, it was a vegan, but like, just like plant based. Okay. The only time I've ever seen a bun that was not plant based was the KFC Double Down.
Right.
A term that
Yeah.
actually doesn't mean anything is natural. So anything that says natural, it means absolutely nothing.
I go after artificial.
Listen, if there's a way that the marketers can lie to you, they're going to lie to you. That's what I feel like. Anyway, I could be wrong. I'm sure there are some very good marketers out there that don't do that. Like dbrand, and Framework. I think they're very good marketers that aren't lying to you. Dbrand, probably my favorite marketing of any company out there right now.
They told me Linux was free, but all it did was cost me friends.
What you
I
made
like
more? You made new friends.
Who are you? Where am I?
Nobody.
What is
I'm
this?
just another faceless nobody. But if we had Steve's very own on here, then we'd have the least punchable face to have on the internet to not punch. But anyway,
He's not immune to punching, just least punchable.
least punchable. Yeah. When you see him, you want to give him a hug. Be like, this guy looks just so friendly. How are we so blessed to have such a friendly face amongst us, or something like that?
Then he slips you a butterscotch.
Right. Or shivs you in the kidney.
Yeah. Kids come up with names for everything.
That's right. Well, I think with society, there's a lot of imperfect people who make imperfect decisions and have imperfect things happen. Oh well.
I think that's always been true. The point being, though, that you have to find that common ground.
Oh, of course. Of course. Yep.
It's a
I just don't
skill.
like-
It's a
don't like-
skill that seems to be lacking.
I just think I don't like people to force me to do anything. That's my problem. As soon as somebody tries to force me or push me into a box, I immediately just start kicking and screaming.
What? You have a problem with authority? Oh my goodness. I react so poorly to anyone telling me to do anything.
That's why I like Linux.
It's not good.
Yeah.
It's been a
Linux user that doesn't like authority.
Yeah,
Novel idea, right?
Is that what it is?
How did I end up here? I wonder.
Yeah.
I've burned all the bridges.
I'd like to say I haven't burned down too many. I think I have a few left.
Well, then you're more flexible than I am, apparently.
Fitz said his buns are all natural.
So that's why like me, I like having chickens and having a almost like not quite a farm here, but I need to buy more fruit trees and actually start growing food. But I like the idea of having my own, what it I like to self-host my food, I guess, as much as possible. Is it more work? Yes. Does it seem like it's always worth it? Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just have to say that looking back on my childhood, the more idyllic aspects of it were having land. The more idyllic aspects were having land, were sharing, spending time with my family on that land, growing things, nurturing. Like I took so much out of that in my young life that has served me throughout the rest of my life, like growing up there. And I would hope this is be true for your kids as well, to just have access to do those things. Like there's so many kids that never get to grow anything or have any kind of contact with the world outside of whatever's been fabricated and put in front of them. So
Oh yeah, for sure. The it does I think it does help them to be more, I don't know, conscientious about not being wasteful with food and everything else. Yep. So yeah.
Once again, a excellent meandering conversation. Bravo, well done.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so it is about that time for last call, and I appreciate you all being here. Eric, you've been the what is it, the prolific podcaster, doing Distro Hoppers Digest, and I think some other things as well. So how are your other things and Distro Hoppers Digest going?
This has been a bit of an off month for me. I spent a couple weeks going to visit my family, and so this is the most I've sat in front of my computer, like basically today. So
all month.
Yeah. So, but podcasting's going well. I think I mentioned transitioning over to using Reaper, and have been having fun. Sort of, it is just like we talked about OBS. It's kind of like OBS from a audio production standpoint. Like it just can do so much that it almost seems unlimited, and like you can't even get a grasp on all of the possibilities. It's just so open-ended and powerful. So and somehow they do it, and it's like a 30 megabyte program, which just seems impossible. But anyway,
so
so
a little bit of black magic in that application.
Yeah, right. Yeah, some like machine code or something. But yeah, it's
Assembly.
good stuff. Yeah, right. I've been enjoying that, and it's as much about like the process and making it as it is just sitting and recording it. So sometimes I feel like that's actually more fun depending on what I had to review that month. But yeah, it's fun. I enjoy doing it with Dale, and yeah, we have 53 came out I want to say like a week ago or so, and then we just recorded 54, and I'll get that out here in the next couple of weeks. And yeah, doing Mintcast and Linux OTC, and I do this stream and I do another stream, and so it's fun. It keeps me engaged, and I just enjoy the conversations and really enjoy spending the time with the people. So.
Excellent. That's fantastic. Yeah. So I think Steve's very own. I think he might be doing a stream tomorrow. If he is, it's at 9:30 Eastern or 8:30 Central. Most Sunday mornings, when it's not too busy, I guess. So you can check him out on YouTube and also on Twitch. I don't know what his Twitch address is, but I know what his YouTube address is, and you maybe need to add that. So Linux User Space, they are on summer break. Is it summer break? They're on break anyway. And so if you haven't checked out their latest podcast, I can go to lus.sh or linuxuserspace.show. Check that out. I'm on a podcast called Linux Out Loud. I have two co-hosts, Matt and Wendy. We're going to record another one this Wednesday. No, Tuesday. Monday? I don't know. We're going to record sometime this week. And also, I have a website called cubiclenate.com. I just released an article about the FS cache with NFS, which is a lot of FSing and, acronyms. So I apologize. But you can check that out at cubiclenate.com. Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network, so check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. I want to thank you all for your support, however you do it, being a part of this conversation, both the Zoom meeting and the YouTube stream, as well as everyone for watching the show after the fact. I want to thank everyone involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back into personal computers. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time.